Today we're going to be talking to the second part of the Salesforce Certified Associate Exam, navigation, which is going to take up 28% of this exam. We're going to talk through the 2 bullet points found here in the exam guide and give a lot of examples, walk you through a developer org so you feel confident and ready for any question that could come up in this section. The first bullet point is, given a scenario, identify how a user can locate and access necessary information. So we're going to be talking through the navigation of Salesforce, talking about how you can search up different records and find certain information. This is obviously very important for a baseline understanding of Salesforce, of how do you navigate Salesforce, making sure you're not getting lost, taking the wrong turn, and make sure that you're an expert on how you can find this information. We're going to start off by actually going into a developer org and talking through how we can navigate and find and what tools you can use as you search for information in Salesforce. Again, these will all likely be shown on the test. So here I have just logged in to my free developer account, this Salesforce org here. There's some test records in here, and I want to talk about how we can find information. So we're going to first start off by talking about client information. So I want to be able to understand, how can I find a certain account or a certain contact or a certain opportunity, and where I can do that. So the first place that I always go, very simple, is the global search bar, which, if you're seeing here, is at the top of my screen. This global search bar is able to look through all records in Salesforce. So if I am looking for a particular opportunity, I can search for it here, particular account, even a particular user. For example, if I put in my name and hit search, it'll actually find my user. So it's not only just client records or customer records, but you're also able to search users, etc., etc. But here I am again. Again, I can search this at any time. So no matter where I am in Salesforce, I'm gonna jump into the accounts here. I can always have this global search bar. So this is extremely useful as I'm just looking for a quick way to find records, this global search bar. It's not going to limit you to any object unless you tell it to. So if you see here, here's some recent things that I've looked up. But also you'll see here that the search is currently for all. Something that the test may talk about is how can you have a global search and how you're able to filter it down. So if I hit this down arrow here, I can actually really refine this search to certain objects within Salesforce. So let's say, for example, I want to look up only accounts. So as I hit search here, it's only going to look through account records. It's not going to look across other records. Now this is helpful, particularly if you have maybe opportunities that are the same name as an account, etc., etc. You can really refine this search by object. I typically, personally, I always have it set to all, so I can go ahead and search through all of my records within Salesforce. So this is the first place you want to look at. This is likely going to come up on the test, is the global search bar. And it's right here at the top of every page in Salesforce. No matter what page I'm in, this bar will always be showing. And so again, looking across all objects, looking across all records is the global search bar. Next up, I want to talk about list views. List views can be a very powerful tool for Salesforce users. Now what a list view is showing a view of a list of records of one particular object. So as you see here, I'm on the home page. Now if I want to see the list view for contacts, I would navigate to the Contacts tab. And right here, this is currently a list view, but this is the recently viewed list view. Whereas I can hit this down arrow and I can see all of the different list views that are available here. I can hit all contacts. It's going to show you all of the different lists, a list of all the different contacts that are set up for the filters in place for this list view. So this is a list view. Now, a few things about list view is that it's always going to show you the records according to the object that you're on, which again, per my navigation bar, I'm on contacts. It's always going to show you according to the filters that you have set up. So right now, this filter is looking at this is looking at all contacts. Now, what I want to do to teach you a few things about list views is I actually want to create my own custom list view. And so what I would like to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over here under these list view, right? I could be under anywhere, any list view at all. And I want to go here to this cog here, and I want to hit new, right? I want to be able to create my own list view. So I'm going to create my own list view. I'm going to have this one be demo test view. You can have the sharing settings here. Only myself view it. I can have all users or share it with a specific group of users. In this case, I'll put it for all users. I'm going to hit save. Now, right now, it's looking at any contacts that I own. And I want to play with the filters here. So again, under this right side is the filters. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open it up to all contacts. But maybe I want to add it to, I want to add it for certain titles. So I'm going to say a title. If I come down here, I want to really look at, we're going to say only CEO titles. So I'm going to hit done here, and I'm going to hit save. Now you'll notice here, there's only one CEO in my list view. So let's actually look up, let's actually look up VP. So I'm going to say contains VP. This may give us a few more results here. Great, so here I have a lot of senior VPs and VPs. And so this is how I can filter my list view and how I can create it. Now, something that's great is how can I add fields to this list view? For example, maybe I don't really care their phone number or their email. Maybe I want to see when they were created, to see when they entered Salesforce, or maybe I want to see the last time they were modified, etc. I want to be able to change the actual columns or the fields that are showing here. Again, I'm going to go back to this cog, and I'm going to say select fields to display. As I hit that, you'll see that these fields pop up. So for example, I want to take out the phone number, I want to take out the email, and maybe, let's see here. Let's go ahead and add, we're going to go ahead and add in the department and see if we have any data in the department field. And I'm going to hit save. Perfect. So here is my list of VPs or senior VPs, and now I can see the department that they're a part of. And so that's how you can add and adjust the fields on the list views. Again, here under this cogs, select fields to display. And so again, here is where all of really the controls are. As I mentioned, you can hit new, I could clone this, rename it, update the sharing settings, etc., etc. I recommend that you get into a developer org and you go ahead and create some list views, customize some list views, and be familiar with how to create list views, add fields to a list views, and filter list views. So here I am still on my demo test view, this list view that I created with you, but I don't want it how the table's looking. I actually want to be able to click in to different records and have a split view. So be able to see this list while I'm still looking at records. And so how I can change the view here is if I go here on select list display. I'm currently looking at the table. I'm interested right now in the split view, which is going to allow me to have this left side split, which is still showing the records within my list view, but now I'm actually able to click into them and go through the records while still maintaining this list view on the side. So I could, make sure that I'm tracking and going through this list as I'm looking at the records. So that is the split view. Now, one thing that is very likely to come up on your test is the Kanban view. And in order to show that, I want to jump over to opportunities and show you what the Kanban view allows you to do and even edit as you look at something similar to this list view. So I'm going to jump over this navigation bar up here to the opportunities, which again is like a deal, a contract, a negotiation, that sales engagement. I'm going to choose here a different list view. And now I'm on the table. I have the split view. Now I'm going to look at the Kanban view. Now, if you see here, the Kanban view is taking a certain field, in this case, the stage of these opportunities, and it's having it highlighted across this top bar. Now, what's very unique about Kanban view is it gives you a very visual representation of how many records sit in certain stages. But what's also great is you're able to move these records and edit them straight from this view. So you see here, for example, this pyramid emergency is currently in prospecting, and you're seeing $100,000 amount here. I can move this to a different stage, and you'll see Salesforce update appropriately. So this is likely to be on the test about the Kanban view. Again, just remember and get to a developer org and open this up and know that the Kanban view is how you can display these records in a list view format and be able to edit and move opportunity stages. This is a phenomenal tool, particularly if you're a visual person and maybe you're used to seeing these listed out as such in these nice sorted stages. But this is the Kanban view, allowing you to update information, particularly these stages, and move the stages without leaving the Kanban list view. Now, as we're talking about records, I want to talk about a few other things and other places where you need to access information in Salesforce. So we've talked about the global search bar. We've talked about the different list views and how to find records. Now, let's understand when you're actually on a record, what you're looking at. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and jump onto a contact here. We'll jump on to Edna Frank here. And here is our record, right? Now, a few places, a few callouts I want to make here. 3 in particular really is understanding where you can find related lists, which are related records to Miss Edna Frank, where you can find the details or the data for this record, and then where to find certain activity metrics or calls and emails, for example. Now, as I open this page up, you'll notice here this related tab, what this means is that this is looking at all records in Salesforce that are related and tied to Miss Edna Frank. So in this case, I have no opportunities tied, I have 2 cases, etc., etc. But these are the related lists. So for example, if this is tied to Edna Frank, let's go and click into it. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this case. And you'll see on this case that Edna Frank is listed right here as the contact. So that's why this case is on the related list, because it's related to Edna. So this is the related list. Next up, I want to talk about the details page or the details tab. This is standard across all objects in Salesforce. Out of the box, this is called the details section. This is where the actual fields or the inputs are for Miss Edna Frank. This is where her phone number is, address, title, everything that you would need in terms of details, particularly on this record, is on the details page. This is where you'll access all of that information. Now, the third piece is something called the activity timeline. This is a running timeline showing your activity with this record. And by timeline, typically it's going to be your emails, your phone calls, any particular marketing touches or marketing content sent out. And that's found here on the right side. That is the activity timeline. Again, because this is a developer org, I don't have any activities here, but you would have the activity shown in a timeline fashion. And so that is the activity timeline. So if you get a question on the test that says, where do you look to see emails with this contact or phone calls with this contact, it's going to be your activity timeline. Again, get into a developer org, familiarize yourself with the record page layout, looking at the related list, the detail list, and the activity timeline, and know how you can access this information on the record itself. Now, talking of some other fun pieces of navigation and just how you can start to play with Salesforce a little more, Salesforce does have the ability to favorite records, and this allows you to favorite records. Maybe it's an important account for you, an important opportunity, something that you're looking to make sure that you track pretty frequently. You can do that from any record page at all. So right now, I'm still on Miss Edna Frank. A fun piece is I can go up here to the upper right and see this Add Favorite. I click this Add Favorite, and now I'm going to go away from Edna Frank, But see here on this drop down, there's Edna right there waiting for me in my favorites tab. So I can do it across all objects. Here I am on a different opportunity. I'm going to favor that opportunity, and I'm going to go on with my day. Go look at some accounts. If I go back to my favorites list, here's Edna, and here's that opportunity. So that's the favorites section of Salesforce. You may see a question on that. That's just a nice thing to know as well. Now this next one is a favorite one of mine, as this is something that I'm often having to look through, particularly when users come up to me and say, oh, this record is missing, or I accidentally deleted it. What do I do? And we're going to talk about the recycle bin. The recycle bin is where records go after they're deleted. They're essentially gone to a recycle bin where you are able to bring them back. Now the way that you get to the recycle bin is through the app launcher. The app launcher allows you to navigate through all the different apps and objects within Salesforce. Now to see where that is here on the upper left hand, these 9 little dots. If you click that, you're essentially launching the app launcher, where from here, I could actually search an object. So let's say maybe, I can't find my reports, or maybe it's not found on my navigation bar. I want to find my reports tab. I can type it in here on the app launcher, and there it goes, navigates me there. I could then search on here the accounts, and it's going to take me to the accounts. As I mentioned, the recycle bin is also found in here. So if I type in recycle bin, here it is. Here's my recycle bin, where I can restore records that have been deleted. And so this is a great place where you can navigate to objects or other apps, such as a recycle bin. Now you can also navigate between Sales Cloud and Service Cloud, or Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud, with that same piece, right? Right now I'm in the Sales Cloud, right? But I've opened the app launcher, and now I want to go to the Service Cloud. So now I've clicked into Service Cloud, and it's going to bring me to the homepage of Service Cloud, where now you see different objects listed here, right? Here's cases, which is a big important piece for Service Cloud. And so the app launcher allows you to go through the different apps and objects. I can hit this view all down here if you want to see them all in one place. I can see all of my apps, as well as all of the different objects. Anything I can navigate, I want to navigate to within my Salesforce org. So this is the app launcher. Now next up, I want to talk about how you can access your own personal information, as in your own user's information, such as your email, your phone number. You could set a picture for your icon, or maybe even set a signature, etc. What we're going to do here is, here I am on the home page, and I want to go to the top right for my profile here, and I'm going to go to settings. As I hit settings, here are my personal settings. Here's where I can go to update my email, my phone number, my hours, just within the personal information. Also note that here is where you can set up things such as your approver. I can go ahead and try and change my own password. I can also, here under email, I can set up my signature for my email. So these are all found under your personal settings, under that top right navigation. You go under your profile, and I'm gonna hit my settings. Again, this is where my user, Ryan, I'm going into Salesforce, working every day, and these are the things that I want to go and maybe update. Be familiar with these things. I recommend you go into your developer org, go to the personal settings, and familiarize yourself with the things that you can do from the personal settings page. So that wraps up more or less the user side of how to access information, where to find information. Now let's switch over to the admin side. So the second bullet point of this section of the exam is, given a scenario, identify where Salesforce customization takes place. So we're now going to go on the admin side and talk through where things get customized within Salesforce. And so in order to do that, we need to get to the setup menu of Salesforce. We need to go behind the curtain. Right now I'm looking at my homepage. This is where users go. I like to call this in front of the curtain. This is the stage. This is where all the work gets done for users day in and day out. We want to go behind the curtain. To do that, we're going to go over to the top right corner under the service cog here, or the setup cog, and I'm going to go to setup. So as I hit setup, I am now on the back end of Salesforce. this is where the configuration is going to take place, is under the setup menu. Now I want to call out a few places that this test may talk about when talking about identify where the customization takes place. And so a few quick call outs that I want to talk about is similar to the personal settings that we just saw for a user. I want to talk about the user settings. The user settings, if I go on my quick find bar right here under the setup, I'm going to type in user. The user settings is where I'm going to go to look at information for individuals within the org. So I'm going to click here on Ryan, and this is where I actually would go to deactivate users or freeze users or change passwords for users, right? So here's where I could hit edit, and here's where I could edit the information for the users themselves. Now, this is also under the user settings. This is where I can create a new user. So if I hit new user here, this is where I can also input names and emails. I can give them a license, a profile, etc., all with the expectation that this is going to send them a link for them to log into Salesforce. So the user settings is where this configuration happens, where I can create users, deactivate users, freeze users, and reset passwords. That's all under the user settings. Again, in your developer org, play with the user settings. Make sure that you have created a few dummy users, send out these emails, activate a few users within Salesforce. Get familiar with that process, as that is a very common request whenever someone is hired or whenever someone maybe transitions out of that company or role. You need to know how to immediately freeze and then later deactivate and free up that license. That's all here under the user settings. Now that we've talked about the users, let's talk a little bit about the company as a whole. Where do I go to understand how many licenses are left within this organization, or what's our data limits look at? That's going to be, again, here under the setup. But now I'm going to go to the company information section of setup. And as I go to the company information, here's just a very basic company information that I can look at, right? I can see primary contacts, I can see fiscal year, I can see the default time zone for Salesforce, my data limits, what edition I'm sitting on, as well as other pieces such as how many licenses are left, etc. That's all under the company information. I have another video on my channel where I go very in depth on company information, talk through each of these things if you're curious on that. But know if you want to look at this important company information, look at your data usage, it's under the company information section of setup. The last place I want to talk about where configuration happens in Salesforce that's likely to come up on the test is under the object manager. So if I go here again to my setup menu in Salesforce, you'll notice that this is often pinned standard and default by Salesforce. The object manager is listed here. If I click into it, it's going to show a list of all of the objects that currently live within Salesforce. All right, now you see these are all standard objects. We have our account, we have activity, we have contact, etc., etc. And so what I want to talk about is what can be done within the object manager. So if I click into an account, we now are looking at the account object, and we're looking to configure or customize the account object. And so a few things just to call out here that we want to look to do is we have fields and relationships where we can create fields. We have page layouts where we can edit where fields live on the details page of an object. We have different record types, validation rules, etc. But really, you only need to be very familiar with the object manager, when you would need that. Most of the time, it's going to be talking about updating page layouts or creating fields and editing fields. And that's here in the object manager. So just to show you a quick example, here I am. I'm going to go ahead and jump on a account here real quick. And we're going to see what the page currently looks like, right? We have a good number of fields, and it ends where it looks like number of locations, upsell, and active. And I want to go ahead and add a field here and maybe update some of the layout here. And that's always done in the Object Manager. So back here on the Account Object Manager, I'm going to hit Fields and Relationships, and I want to go ahead and create a new field. So here are all the different field types that I can choose. I'll talk about these a little more in a further video in this series about what to be aware of on the test. One call out is, this is a big one here that's very common in Salesforce and very much needed, is make sure that you understand which field is used if you want users to select from a defined list. And that's going to be a pick list. So let's go ahead and create a pick list here. And I'm going to hit Next. I'm going to go ahead and call this, let me call this the sub-industry. And this is going to be a sub-industry pick list where I'm going to create some of these here. And we'll say we're working in the tech space, so we're going to call them FinTech. We're going to call them InsurTech. And we'll round it out with, we'll go with DevTech. And so this is just a pick list field where these are defined fields or defined values that we want for this field. Now, typically make sure always put in a description and help text, just so that you know what that looks like and get good practice of that. But in this case, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna hit Next here. This is where Salesforce is gonna ask me, what profiles have visibility to this. Again, you won't really need this on this test, but make sure that you go through this practice, understand the implications of this. And then the layouts, make sure it goes onto a layout as well. So I'm going to hit Save and know that I just created that sub-industry pick list. Now that I've created that field, let me jump into the page layout real quick and just move around some fields so you can see what that looks like on the front end for users. So here I have several layouts here. This is something we'll get into later on as we study for the admin exams, talking about page layout assignment. But in this case, I'm just going to go straight to the account layout. And if I scroll down here, you're going to see all the fields that you're able to see on the front end. As I mentioned, it ends with number of locations, upsell, and active. And what do we see here? Number of locations, upsell, and active, right? It's all part of that. And here's my sub-industry. So just to show you what it looks like on the front end, I'm going to put it at the very top so it's easy to see. And I'm going to hit Save. So again, Salesforce configuration happening on the setup side. And this is the Object Manager. This Object Manager, I'm on the account, is where I can create fields, I can edit fields, I can update page layouts as well. Here I am back on the account page. I've hit refresh, and what do you know? Here's that sub-industry, and here are those defined values that my users have to pick from. The Object Manager is where a lot of that Salesforce configuration happens, particularly for objects. And so here I have created a field, and I've put it on a page layout that you see here. That wraps it up for the navigation section of this exam. Let me know if this was helpful, if you have any questions, and look out for the remaining videos to help you prepare for the Salesforce Associate Exam. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.